Have you ever wondered why kindness alone does not protect you? Why being balanced, fair, and merciful often leads to betrayal, defeat, and loss? In this lesson, we shall solve that problem. We will uncover why Machiavelli teaches that there is no middle ground in power, why you must either break or become ruthless if you wish to endure. In the theater of human ambition, the stage is set with only two roles, the one who breaks or the one who becomes ruthless. This is not an idea born from cruelty, but a reality that has repeated itself in every century, every empire, and every man who has risen to the heights of power. For life is not generous to the soft, nor merciful to the hesitant. Those who carry delicate hearts into the battlefield of survival discover quickly that the world is made of teeth, and they are but the feast. The harsh choice of power is not a choice at all. It is an ultimatum. You do not decide whether the world will crush you. The world already waits to do so. You only decide whether you will allow yourself to break under the weight of its schemes, or whether you will rise sharpened and become something ruthless enough to bend it to your will. The man who pretends otherwise, the man who clings to a third path, a path of softness wrapped in hope, he does not endure. He is eaten alive by the stronger, by the more decisive, by the ones who understood that survival demands claws. Ask yourself, when history remembers its rulers, its conquerors, its great thinkers, does it ever celebrate those who tried to walk gently, hoping to offend no one? No, their names are dust. What we remember are the Caesars, the Borgias, the men who understood that mercy without strength is weakness, and weakness is always destroyed. Those who did not learn this truth became examples, not of triumph but of ruin. They serve as warnings carved into the stone of history, monuments to what happens when one chooses to remain breakable. There is a cruelty in this truth. Yes, but it is a cruelty no man can escape. You either break under betrayal, manipulation, and pressure, or you learn to wield these weapons yourself. You either kneel before power, or you seize it. There is no middle ground where the kind survive by kindness alone, where the just are protected by justice itself. Power does not respect innocence. Power respects only the hand strong enough to command it. Even in your own life, you have seen it. Consider how the gentle man in your circle is often taken advantage of, ignored, or ridiculed. He hopes to win favor by being agreeable, but he wins only exploitation. Meanwhile, the ruthless man, who is willing to say no to cut ties, to advance himself without apology, this man gains respect even from those who despise him. It is not because he is loved, but because he cannot be broken easily. That is the harsh truth of power. If you are breakable, you will be broken. Do not think this applies only to kings or princes. It applies to every human bond. In business, if you are unwilling to be ruthless, you will be crushed by competitors who do not hesitate to strike. In war, if you are unwilling to be ruthless, you will be slaughtered by those who fight without mercy. In love, even if you refuse to show strength, you will be discarded by those who see your softness as weakness. The world bends only for those who are unbending. To choose ruthlessness is not to choose cruelty for its own sake. It is to choose survival. It is to choose strength over destruction. It is to decide that you will not be a pawn moved by others, but the hand that moves the pawns. And yet many recoil from this demand. They cling to the illusion that they can avoid conflict, avoid enmity, avoid the harsh choice altogether. But understand this, the harsh choice is forced upon you whether you desire it or not. Refusing to choose is already a choice. To be broken. Consider the noble who hesitated when rebellion rose against him. He told himself that perhaps he could negotiate, that perhaps mercy would spare him. Yet his hesitation gave his enemies time to gather strength, and when he finally acted, it was too late. His lands were taken, his allies abandoned him, and he was left with nothing but regret. He broke because he did not dare to be ruthless. Now consider his rival, who faced the same rebellion. This rival acted swiftly. He executed those who conspired, showed no hesitation, and struck fear into every would-be traitor. The rebellion never grew. His power stood firm. He became ruthless, and thus he survived. The harsh choice of power teaches us that cruelty, when necessary, is mercy in disguise. By refusing to be broken, you preserve not only yourself, but those who depend upon you. Imagine a ruler who refuses to execute a traitor out of mercy. That traitor lives to spark chaos, and thousands die in the wars that follow. Was the ruler merciful, or did his softness kill far more than his sword ever would? To become ruthless is not to delight in cruelty, but to understand when it is required, and to wield it with precision. The man who refuses this truth, who wishes to walk a path of gentleness in a world built on conflict, is like a lamb wishing to negotiate with wolves. He may convince himself of his nobility, but his blood will stain the teeth of those who are stronger. The lamb cannot choose peace when the wolf has already chosen war. Likewise, You cannot choose to be safe, kind, and breakable when the world has already chosen to test you, to push against you, to threaten your very survival. So understand this, the harsh choice is not whether you want to become ruthless. The choice is whether you want to break or whether you want to endure. To break is to accept defeat, to fade into irrelevance, to surrender your destiny into the hands of others. To become ruthless is to seize control, to impose your will, to claim your place in the order of power, where the weak are forgotten and the strong are remembered. The greatest deception a man can suffer is the belief that there exists a safe middle, a place where he can avoid the costs of power, avoid making enemies, avoid becoming ruthless. Many desire this path, for it feels noble. It feels reasonable. They whisper to themselves, I shall not be cruel, but neither shall I be weak. I shall stand in between, balancing all sides, and in this balance I will survive. But this is not survival. This is the beginning of destruction, for the middle is an illusion, a trap laid for those too timid to take a side. The middle appears attractive because it promises peace. Yet in reality it offers only exposure. The man who chooses not to commit, who seeks to please both sides, pleases no one. He becomes hated by both, seen as unreliable, seen as unworthy of trust. The enemy despises him for not joining their cause, while his supposed allies condemn him for his hesitation. He has chosen the middle, and the middle rewards him with nothing but isolation. Consider the fate of Florence in my own time. Caught between mighty France and powerful Spain, Florence sought to remain neutral. Its rulers thought themselves clever, believing they could escape the wrath of two giants by choosing no side. But neutrality is not respected. It is punished. Both France and Spain saw Florence not as a partner, but as prey. Easy to betray, easy to occupy, easy to consume. By standing in the middle, Florence invited attack from both sides. And so it is with all men who think they can survive by balance. The middle gives you no safety, only exposure to destruction. History repeats this lesson without mercy. Kingdoms that tried to remain neutral in times of war were conquered, their people enslaved. Leaders who tried to reconcile enemies ended up executed by both factions. Even in the smallest matters of politics and business, those who sit in the middle are seen as weak, indecisive, and undeserving of loyalty. For men follow strength, not hesitation. They seek certainty, not compromise. And the middle is nothing but hesitation clothed in false nobility. Understand this clearly, the middle is not admired, it is despised. The man who takes a strong position, even if hated by many, at least commands respect. But the man in the middle commands nothing. His voice is weak, his influence is empty, his presence forgotten. To pretend neutrality is to declare yourself powerless, and in the world of power, the powerless are sacrificed first. Think of the worker who refuses to take sides in the conflicts of his trade. He wishes to stay clear of trouble, but instead he becomes the most vulnerable. His superiors do not trust him because he is silent, his peers do not respect him because he is passive, and his enemies know they can easily break him because he has no firm stance. He thought neutrality would protect him, but neutrality simply marked him as weak. Now think of the leader who does the same. Hesitating when his people demand action, trying to remain balanced when enemies press upon him. His weakness grows visible, his authority diminishes, and soon both his people and his enemies unite against him. Such a leader is broken because he believed in the illusion of the middle ground. You may be tempted to believe that compromise is wisdom, that balance is a form of survival. But balance without power is nothing. Only the strong can afford to show compromise, for their strength makes it a choice rather than a necessity. The weak man, however, who compromises out of fear, loses everything. He thinks himself clever for avoiding extremes, but he is only announcing to the world that he is too fragile to choose. And fragility is an invitation to destruction. In the courts of princes, I saw this truth countless times. The advisor who tried to remain in the good graces of all factions ended up destroyed by all. He could not be trusted because he belonged to no side. The soldier who refused to pledge loyalty to one commander was slaughtered when the battle began, for no army protects the man who belongs to neither. The merchant who sought to trade with all sides in conflict was ruined when both saw him as an opportunist, and both stripped him of his wealth. These are not accidents. They are the natural fate of those who fall for the illusion of neutrality. Even in private life, the same law applies. The man who refuses to set boundaries, who refuses to be firm in his dealings, is devoured by those around him. Friends use him, lovers abandon him, rivals step over him. He thought he could keep peace by being agreeable to all, but he finds himself abandoned by all, because strength is what earns respect, not weak attempts at pleasing everyone. The middle ground is an illusion because conflict does not allow it. The world is divided between those who are willing to fight for their survival and those who pretend they can escape the fight. But neutrality is not an escape. The battle still reaches you, and when it does, you are defenseless. This is why Machiavelli says there is no middle, for the middle is not balance. It is emptiness. It is the absence of power, the absence of decision, the absence of strength. The truth is harsh but undeniable. You must choose a side. You must commit to strength or to weakness, to power or to ruin. The world punishes the one who hesitates between the two. The illusion of the middle tempts you with promises of safety, but its reward is betrayal, isolation, and destruction. There comes a moment in every life, whether of kings, generals, or simple men, when survival demands a choice to hesitate and perish, or to strike and live. This is where ruthlessness becomes more than a quality. It becomes a necessity. The weak imagine ruthlessness to be cruelty for cruelty's sake. They imagine it as barbarity, as savagery without thought. But this is a misunderstanding. True ruthlessness is not blind violence. It is the disciplined willingness to do what survival requires, even when others tremble, even when others recoil. It is the refusal to let sentiment, hesitation, or pity destroy what you have built. It is the hand that does not shake when the moment demands action. Ruthlessness is not a luxury reserved for tyrants. It is the very condition of survival itself. Those who cannot summon it when the moment arrives are swept aside, erased by those who can. Imagine two men faced with betrayal. One hesitates, clinging to the illusion of mercy. He thinks that perhaps forgiveness will heal the wound. But what does his mercy create? The betrayer, emboldened, strikes again, and soon the merciful man is ruined. The second man, however, is ruthless. He strikes back immediately, not out of rage, but out of necessity. He removes the traitor before the rot can spread. His enemies see what becomes of disloyalty, and they fear him. Which man survives? Which man commands? Always the one who dared to be ruthless. You must understand, ruthlessness is not the opposite of virtue. It is the shield that protects it. What good is a ruler who is merciful, but so weak that his kingdom collapses? What good is a man who is generous, but so fragile that others take everything from him? Mercy without the strength to defend it is hypocrisy. Generosity without the power to protect it is an invitation to be robbed. Only ruthlessness secures these virtues, for only ruthlessness ensures survival. Without survival, all virtues are lost, because the dead man cannot be merciful, cannot be generous, cannot be just. Many recoil at this truth because it strips away the illusions they cling to. They believe the world rewards kindness, patience, fairness. But observe the world carefully. Do you see the kind ruling nations? Do you see the patient commanding armies? Do you see the fair ascending to thrones? No. What you see is the ruthless enduring while the gentle vanish. For power is not claimed by those who wish for it to be fair. It is claimed by those who seize it. Ruthlessness is survival because survival belongs to the one who acts without hesitation. Consider Caesar Borgia, a man I once observed closely. Ruthless in his actions, he was feared, respected, and obeyed. He eliminated traitors without delay, and by doing so, he preserved his state. His cruelty was calculated, his strikes precise, and because of this, he was able to maintain control over lands filled with enemies. His reputation for ruthlessness kept conspiracies silent, for conspiracies cannot grow in the shadow of fear. Compare him to those princes who hesitated, who sought to be loved more than feared. They were overthrown, betrayed, killed, and their names forgotten. Borgia endured, for he understood that ruthlessness is not a choice, but the law of survival itself. Even beyond the realm of princes, this truth holds. In business, the man who hesitates to cut off a failing venture is ruined, while the ruthless man discards it and preserves his fortune. In love, the one who clings desperately to someone who disrespects him is broken, while the ruthless one walks away and retains his dignity. In every human arena, ruthlessness protects survival because it demands that nothing is allowed to endanger your position. Sentiment may be indulged only when it costs nothing. The moment it threatens survival, it must be cut away. But let us be clear, ruthlessness is not mindless cruelty. The man who destroys indiscriminately, who kills without reason, who terrifies without strategy, this man is a fool, and fools are soon destroyed. True ruthlessness is intelligent. It is precise. It is exercised only when needed, and never wasted on vanity. It is the knife drawn only when hesitation would mean death, the punishment delivered only when it teaches a lesson to all who would defy you. The man who masters this balance is feared and respected. The man who does not is either broken by others or ruined by his own excess. You must learn to see ruthlessness as an art, not a vice. It is the art of survival in a world where softness is crushed. It is the art of commanding loyalty through fear when love will not suffice. It is the art of cutting away weakness before it poisons strength. Every empire that lasted, every dynasty that endured, was built not on kindness, not on balance, but on the cold steel of ruthlessness. The Romans did not conquer the world by being merciful. They conquered by being ruthless enough to act when others hesitated. And so it is in your life. When the moment of trial arrives, when you are cornered by those who would see you fall, you cannot afford to hesitate. You cannot afford to cling to illusions of kindness that endanger your survival. You must be ruthless, not because you desire cruelty, but because the alternative is destruction. Those who do not understand this truth are broken. Those who do understand it endure, rise, and command. There is no greater enemy to power than hesitation. Not weakness, not poverty, not even open opposition, because all of these can be overcome. But hesitation is the silent poison that rots a man from within, stripping him of authority before his enemies even lift a hand. It is hesitation that transforms opportunity into defeat, that allows conspiracies to spread, that gives courage to those who would otherwise cower. To hesitate is to betray yourself, and once you betray yourself, no ally can save you. Understand this. The world does not wait for the hesitant, it devours them. When you pause, when you waver, when you tell yourself you need more time, someone else acts. Someone else takes the step that you refuse to take. Someone else seizes the throne, the wealth, the victory that was yours for the taking. And when you finally move, you find that the chance has vanished, that you are too late, and that your delay has made you weak. In the realm of power, timing is everything. To act late is to act never. Consider the prince who discovers whispers of betrayal among his court. He knows there are men plotting against him, yet he hesitates, believing he can watch longer, gather more proof, delay action until he feels secure. But in the time he spends hesitating, the plot grows, the conspirators multiply, and soon the treachery has consumed the court itself. When he finally acts, his enemies are already too strong and he is overthrown. Now think of another prince who hears the same whispers, but does not hesitate. He moves quickly, cuts off the heads of conspirators before the rot spreads, and establishes fear so strong that none dare to follow their example. One prince hesitated and was destroyed. The other acted and secured his throne. Such is the power of hesitation. It delivers you into the hands of your enemies without them lifting a finger. Hesitation does more than rob you of opportunities. It destroys the image of strength upon which power depends. Men follow decisiveness. They admire certainty. They rally behind the one who moves forward with confidence, even if his direction is ruthless. But they abandon the hesitant because hesitation signals weakness, and weakness attracts abandonment. Your allies drift away when you falter. Your soldiers lose heart when you delay. Your people lose faith when you waver. In hesitation, you do not only lose the moment, you lose the loyalty of everyone who once depended on your strength. Even your enemies are emboldened by hesitation. When they see you act with force, they fear you. But when they see you hesitate, they taste blood. They realize you doubt yourself. They realize you are uncertain. And this realization is more powerful than any weapon, for it inspires them to test you, to strike where they once would have stayed silent. Hesitation feeds your enemies courage, and courage is what makes them dangerous. In politics, hesitation has toppled empires. A ruler who failed to decide between war and peace ended up with both, the war he tried to avoid, and the peace that came only through surrender. In war, hesitation has destroyed armies. A general who delayed striking an enemy lost the chance to win, and his hesitation turned into slaughter as his forces were ambushed instead. In business, hesitation ruins fortunes. The man who delayed seizing an opportunity sees it claimed by another, and his wealth is drained by inaction. In every sphere of life, hesitation is nothing but the refusal to act until it is too late. You may tell yourself that hesitation is wisdom, that caution is prudence. And yes, there are moments when careful thought must precede action. But thought is not hesitation. Calculation is not hesitation. The difference is clear. The calculating man prepares swiftly, then strikes without delay when the moment arrives. The hesitant man prepares endlessly, convincing himself that one more day, one more sign, one more piece of proof will make the decision safer. He hides his fear behind the mask of caution, but fear cannot be hidden for long. When the moment passes, he is left with nothing but regret. Hesitation also corrodes the soul. Every time you hesitate, you weaken yourself. You teach yourself that delay is acceptable, that postponing action is safer than commanding it. Soon hesitation becomes your habit. You hesitate not once, but always. And once hesitation becomes habitual, it becomes your fate. For no man who hesitates consistently can ever rise, can ever endure, can ever command. He will always arrive late, always speak after the Moment has passed, always act when the decision no longer matters. He becomes a spectator in his own life, while others write his destiny. I have seen this truth unfold countless times. Princes who hesitated to punish treason were assassinated. Commanders who hesitated to strike were surrounded. Merchants who hesitated to defend their trade lost it all. Lovers who hesitated to demand respect were discarded. Men who hesitated to seize their chance at greatness lived and died in obscurity. The pattern does not change, because human nature does not change. Those who hesitate are erased. Those who act endure. There is nothing more pitiful than a man who had the chance to be great, but lost it through hesitation. He will spend the rest of his days haunted by what might have been, whispering to himself that he was cautious, that he was careful, that he did not want to make a mistake. Yet this whisper is hollow, because the greatest mistake was hesitation itself. Better to act and fail than to hesitate and fade, for action at least commands respect, while hesitation commands only contempt. And so the lesson stands before you, clear and undeniable. Life offers you no safe refuge, no sanctuary of softness, no middle path where you can survive untouched. The harsh choice of power is always present. You either break beneath it, or you become ruthless enough to endure. To imagine that you can stand in the middle is to walk willingly into ruin, for neutrality is despised by both friend and enemy alike. Ruthlessness, then, is not cruelty for its own sake. It is survival itself. It is the discipline to cut away weakness before it festers, the clarity to strike when hesitation would destroy you, the courage to do what others cannot. For hesitation is the silent grave digger of all men who rise. It corrodes authority, empowers your enemies, and leaves you exposed until destruction is certain. You must understand this truth, as every prince, every general, every ruler, and every man of ambition has had to understand it. The world belongs to the decisive, not the hesitant, to the ruthless, not the fragile, to those who act, not those who wait. History remembers only the names of those who dared to wield power without apology, while it buries the hesitant and the weak in silence. So choose, for there is no middle. You will either break, or you will become ruthless.